If you're anything like me, you might look back on your life in sections or eras. This is my high school era, my college era, my early adulthood era, marriage era. And a lot of those eras have a beginning and an end. High school begins and ends. Middle school begins and ends. College begins and ends. Your time living in a certain city begins and ends. But some of those eras begin and never end. The ones that are just a part of your life now. You get married, you have a kid, stuff like that. And while the lessons you learn in those other eras of your life that do begin and end, you learn those lessons and you take it on to the next chapter of your life. These ones that are with you now forever, you're continually having to learn those lessons. And so one of the biggest lessons I've learned as an adult in one of my forever eras, which is now fatherhood, is that the most peace and joy that I find in my life is in documenting those smaller moments. But if you're new here, and you are most likely new here, I am documenting year 2 of running my media production business. If you want to hear more of an explanation on that, check out one of the first videos on my channel. So this week, which was the week of, oh my gosh, it ended January 17th. So look, last week. This is the last week of January, I'll say that. I had 2 cold calls, I had 3 follow-ups with clients, I had 3 interest meetings with 3 different clients, which was great. I had 2 pre-production meetings, also great, 0 shoots and 0 finalized projects. I made a note here to mention this, and that's one of the big things that I've learned about running a media production company, is that it's like 75% meetings and emails and just overall admin work, and then like 25% actually like being behind a camera or editing stuff that you shoot. So last week was a big testament of that. A lot of meetings, a lot of networking and talking to people and stuff like that, and honestly not a whole ton of shooting, and that's okay because actually I'm finding myself to really enjoy that part of it. Okay, back to the rest of the video. Of course, the moment my daughter was born, my life completely changed. I knew that it would. Everybody tells you hear from your own family members or friends who have already had kids, like, oh, it's life-changing, like it'll never be the same. And yes, obviously, like that's true, and I knew that. But I don't think I anticipated how exactly it would change and how exactly I would have to step up as both a husband and a father to be the husband and a father that I needed to be. And so I knew I had to, be more present with my family, more than you have to if you don't have a kid. And I thought that was kind of like the main thing, right? You just gotta be there with them, spend time with them. And that is true, that is a big part of it. But I think to be a great husband and a great father is to not only be present, but to actively engage in your spouse's life and your kids' lives. In that anything less than that is like doing them a disservice. And I would like to say that was a lesson I learned very quickly, and that I was just on top of it immediately, but I was not. It took me a long time to figure that out. And to an extent, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure that out. I think I'm a lot better at it now, but definitely not perfect. And so for a little bit there at the beginning, I thought, okay, I need to set what do I need to do. And so I'm just going to do a lot of stuff for my family. I'm going to do a lot of the chores. I'm going to do the grocery shopping. I'm going to do the dishes. I'm going to keep the house clean, picking up toys and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to clean everything. I'm just going to do everything so that my family doesn't have to do anything at all. And yes, those are good things. Those are helpful things. But I came to realize that what my family really needs from me on an almost daily basis is to be there with them and spend time with them and actively interact and engage with them. So when I say like actively interact with them, that means like not being on my phone when I don't need to be, not thinking about or doing work while I'm in the same room with them, maybe I'm sitting in the living room with them while they're playing, but I'm at the table doing work on my computer. That's not enough. That's not enough to be a good husband and father. And so I came to realize that it's actively interacting with them, and that the most joy that I find as a father and a husband is in those smaller moments. Not the big ones, and those are important, yes, but the smaller moments that we live on a daily basis. And whether you are married or not, whether you have kids or not, you also live in those small moments on a daily basis. And so as I've been thinking about how to enjoy those smaller moments and be present and active in those, also realize that that's like the best opportunity for the most compelling photographs, or at least the most interesting or keepsake-worthy photographs, to me at least. And I used to think that the best photos I could take were the ones with epic landscapes, like incredible lighting, beautiful subjects, perfect composition, and stuff like that. And yes, those photos are good. I'm not trying to take away from that, but I found that the best photos are the ones that are not documenting the core memories. And since we live every day in those smaller moments, that's what we tend to forget unless we document them. And so as I'm living life with my family and these people that I love so much, I am scared of forgetting those smaller moments or only thinking about the big ones. But that's not where we live every day. Every day is spent making breakfast, picking out what meals I'm going to make each week for them, doing the dishes, doing the chores. They're not home right now, but when they are home, letting her zip through in and out the hallways and play with her while I'm trying to get other things done. Those are the challenges of being a parent, yes, but they're also where a lot of the joy is. I get to show her every day what it's like to enjoy life and not take things for granted, which is what we tend to do a lot as adults. The little things that she just loves. She loves when you hand her a fresh handful of blackberries. I go to the grocery store and buy blackberries all the time. I'm like, oh, I want to eat them. And you just eat them and you're like, that was good, and you move on. But when I hand a blackberry to my daughter, her face lights up. She even laughs sometimes just at the idea of getting to eat something so tasty. And so it's those small moments, those small interactions I have with her that remind me of how just simple pleasures, the simple joys in life, are important to document. And that's and as you're looking back at those photos, you remember what it felt like. You might not remember who all was in the room, what you were wearing as you were taking the photo, what was going through your mind, but you remember that moment of who you were documenting, in which case my daughter or my wife. And it leads you to just taking more authentic photos and helping you, who's looking back at the photos later, or your viewer, your client, whoever, into having the same interaction with those photos. They get to look at them and think, I don't even know if I remember this moment happening, or I might not even remember what else is around me, but I see who I'm talking to in this photo, and I remember that. I remember the joy I felt, the happiness, the peace I felt, or any other emotions when you're looking at those photos. Another thing my daughter does is she's almost 2. If you have kids, you get this, but they'll often play games that you'll never play as an adult, right? Like she'll hide behind the shower curtain and then jump out and laugh really big, and you go, there she is! Or she'll run up and down the hallway or just spin in a circle, and that's really funny to her, and she loves when you do it with her. Sometimes we'll be sitting on the floor of the living room, and she wants to just jump on our backs and push us down and then climb all over us, and that makes her laugh. And we don't obviously do that as an adults. If you do, hey, no judgment on you. It's a little weird, but when you have a kid, you get to do those things, and it reminds you of just a lot of that. I'll put it this way: it is true when people say that having a kid makes you feel like a kid again. It's because really it just gives you an excuse to act like a kid again. And so as a photographer and as somebody who documents other people's lives for a living, the way that I document my family's life is now pretty similar to the way I document my couple's lives and their wedding days or engagement photos, whatever, family sessions, all that. I document all of that much in the same way that I document my own. And I don't really think it was on purpose that I started doing that. But when I had my own child, what was important to me became very clear. And now it is so much easier to document other people's families because I would imagine that what is important to me is also important to them and their own families. And so this mindset of following the smaller moments has 100% influenced my professional photography, specifically weddings and stuff like that. And yes, of course, I do shoot and deliver the big epic stuff like the first kiss, the first dance, portraits, all that kind of stuff or whatever. But so many of my favorite photos now from a wedding gallery are those little moments in between, the stolen glances from across the room, the bride and her bridesmaids laughing at a joke that they won't even remember the next day. And I found that most of my wedding couples are now attracted to booking with me because I'm putting that kind of work out there, right? I'm showing people that this is how I like to document things. This is what is valuable to me as a husband and a father and a photographer. And if those values, this dish is not clean. That should not have been put in there. Ugh. And if those values of mine align with theirs, that comes through in my photography and that makes them want to book me. And I'm not saying that you also have to have, the same mindset that I do to be a good photographer. I'm not saying you have to get married and have kids to be a good photographer. I don't think that's true at all. But the main point I'm trying to make is that this big life change that I've had has absolutely altered my photography, and I think for the better. It's helped me be more authentic and value those small, genuine moments a lot more than the big epic stuff. And again, I do shoot that stuff and I deliver that and people like that, but I think the reason a lot of people book with me these days is because they also value those small moments and they see that I do as well. And so that resonates with them. Every client has their ideal photographer and every photographer has their ideal client. And I'm not the right fit for everyone and I don't want to be the right fit for everyone, because if you try to appeal to everyone, you end up appealing to no one. And so there are couples, there are families who I'm not the right fit for them, and I'll gladly point them in another direction. But the people who value the same stuff that I value, they're the ones who end up booking with me. So I guess my final thought for you on this would be, what is valuable to you? What is important to you? Are you a parent? Do you value your family a lot? Do you value your friends a lot? Does that come through in your photography? What are you putting out there and what are you getting back? Do you want to get more of that authentic kind of stuff like I like to get? Or do you want to live in those bigger moments? I think that's totally fine too. Do you love the epic landscapes and the perfect lighting and just the very posed, very directed stuff? If that's you, that's totally fine. It's all getting away from me a little bit, and I got to turn this water on to load the dishwasher, so it's going to get loud. So I'll end it at this. If the work you shoot and then afterwards share with the world, if that clearly shows your values and what you think is important to you, you will get the same in return from people who want to book with you. If people value the same thing that you do, that's your ideal client. Those are your people, and those are the best working relationships that you can ever have. If you enjoyed this video, want to see more stuff from me, if you want to follow my journey as I document my year 2 of being a business owner here, I have a lot of really cool things coming up this year, then feel free to subscribe. If you don't subscribe, that's fine, because I'll see you in the algorithm in 6 months. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear JoJo. Happy birthday to you. Yeah!
Bye.